everybody said, we had the best Christmas, in the last 50 years after the bank crisis, because, this craziness of big presents, and everybody had to be even bigger than last year, and this pressure was released. This pressure was not there.
Zo'n 12 jaar geleden kreeg IJsland te maken met een gigantische economische crisis door faillissementen van de 3 grootste banken van IJsland. Veel IJslanders raakten hun banen kwijt. Door de uitbarsting van een van de vulkanen in 2010, die wekenlang duurde, kwamen toeristen in grote getalen naar het eiland. Langzaam maar zeker loste de crisis op.
I've experienced that actually 2 times. Last time was the bank crash, 2008, which had a huge impact in Iceland, one of the biggest impacts in the world. And that's the last time I experienced that. This feeling of unity, this feeling of we're just a small island in the rough sea. Let's survive.
Ja, toen kwam de coronacrisis in IJsland. Vrijwel direct ging het land op slot. Velen verloren hun baan en IJsland, dat nu vooral veel inkomsten uit de toerismesector haalde, raakte deze inkomsten kwijt.
Definitely. We will be missing probably about 70-80% of our visitors this summer. The summer is like the entrance money machine for us. That's where most of the tourists come and most of our guests come, and I expect large consequences in the next years to come. Yes.
Na 3 maanden quarantaine gaat IJsland langzaam weer open. De coronacrisis is een grote klap voor de economie van IJsland.
There are a lot of companies that are kind of kept alive at the moment by this method, that the government is paying up to 75% of their wages and the company is paying 25%.
In totaal waren ruim 1800 mensen in IJsland besmet geraakt met het virus. 10 mensen kwamen te overlijden en op dit moment zijn er nog 3 actieve gevallen. De rest is allemaal genezen. Wereldwijd speelt nu de vraag: wat moeten we doen? Bouwen we de economie op of gaan we ons ook focussen op het klimaat? Via een poll op Instagram kwam ik erachter dat van de 33 man die reageerden, 55% vond dat we de economie aan moesten pakken. De overige 45% vond dat het klimaat niet achter moest blijven. In IJsland speelt deze vraag nu dus ook. Abby en Ragnhildur zijn het niet helemaal eens met de aanpak van de regering.
Definitely not. And I think it's really clear, at least here in Iceland, after all of this, COVID crisis, they're trying to do a lot of stuff now to save the economy. And as some people in the parliament have pointed out, they're not doing enough, thinking about green solutions.
And we've gone to them with some demands. Like our prime minister has said in an international setting that climate change is a crisis. But then when we asked her to declare an emergency, she said no, because it isn't an emergency. But that's what she'd said like a couple weeks before on a UN conference. Of course, the government is trying to do something, but they're not doing enough to meet the demands of the Paris Agreement. Of course, the coronavirus has been a huge crisis and it's changed everything. So it's really important to focus on that, but we can't forget about the other big things that are going on. We can't just put all of our focus on one issue and forget about everything else, especially when we're talking about the future of our world. Because we're such a small country, then I think that we have a lot of opportunities to change a lot of things within our country and be like a prototype for the bigger countries.
Toch had de IJslandse regering grote plannen wat betreft het klimaat.
And they have this great plan, as you're mentioning, but it's just not enough, and sometimes you just like think it's kind of laughable how tiny it is. It sometimes seems like the government is okay with doing stuff that just like changes life just like a tiny bit for everybody, but they're not ready to take like radical steps.
The current government gives the promises, but they're not going to act on it. They want someone else to act on it later. So they say, yeah, we're going to do this before 2030 or this before 2040, but they're not actively doing it right now. So what we're also worried about is that if they have some promises before 2030, that they're not going to act on it until like 2028 or 2029, which is way too late.
Maar hoe groot zijn die klimaatproblemen nu in IJsland?
Here we are at the ex-Ogjokull glacier. We are experiencing the loss of one of the glaciers of Iceland. It's being said in the next 200 years, Iceland might lose all of its glaciers due to the climate change. And as we know, the climate change is being caused by a human being. So if you know anyone who's a skeptic about climate change or the global warming, here we are, and here we have the proof that this change is happening just in front of our eyes. This glacier held the title for 30 years. Now what we can see is just a mountain of rocks.
Niet alleen gletsjer ook verdwijnt. Overal in IJsland smelten de gletsjers. Gids Sietske merkt het ook. In 2004 stond zij op deze gletsjer. 13 jaar later maakte ze een foto op precies dezelfde plek. IJsland heeft veel gletsjers. Toch neemt het aantal gletsjers enorm snel af. Halverwege 2019 lieten veel media weten dat de IJslanders afscheid namen van Ok, de eerste gesmolten gletsjer van IJsland. Nu wordt gezegd dat de volgende in 2050 zal verdwijnen. Toch is dat niet het enige gevaar voor IJsland.
Yeah, I think like our glaciers are of course like the biggest, the thing that we see must, change. But then it's also like, because we're an island, and the sea surrounds us, it's also that the sea is of course getting a little bit higher every year. I'm not a biologist or anything, but I think it's mostly the glaciers. And I think that's at least the thing that people talk about most.
So I think that will be the biggest problems in the future, both ocean acidification and the ocean getting higher up. I think that will be the biggest problems that Iceland will have to tackle in the future. But everything looks very clean, and it's sometimes maybe hard to think about climate change when you're in Iceland, because you don't really see it a lot.
Ondertussen heeft de regering van IJsland de noodtoestand opgegeven. Alles mag langzaam weer open, net zoals het museum van Alli.
Everything is opening up. The museum just opened up a week ago. We have a restriction of 50 guests at any taken hour.
Toch blijft de vraag wat de regering nu moet doen nog openstaan. Ragnhildur heeft het antwoord.
I think they should build the economy up while focusing on climate change and building up a green economy. Because we have the chance to do it. We're a rich country. We can do it. So yeah, do both at a time, definitely, because we're not going to shut down our economies to save the earth. It's not going to happen. So making our lives more sustainable, but still living our lives, it's possible, and I think we have the chance to do it now.
And I also think that with Icelandic companies, most of them know that if they want young people to come work for them in the future, they have to start focusing on sustainability today.
It's actually even more important now than ever, because we actually have the chance, when we've cut our consumerism this much, we have the chance to like build it up in a more like sustainable way. So no, I don't think that we're hurt as much, and people like kind of, and the government kind of only focuses on COVID-19 right now, which is understandable. But it actually shows that the government can do stuff, and it actually can solve problems, and it has actually worked out quite well here. As you know, if we're talking about the pandemic. So you know, if we have the pandemic and then we have the climate change, if the government can do so good with the pandemic, why can't it with climate change? And it should be able to.
We've gotten a lot of media coverage, and a lot of more people are now aware of the climate crisis and what effect it could have. So even though maybe the government isn't listening as much as we'd want them to, a lot of people are listening, and a lot of companies are listening.
I would listen to the kids, I think. That's, I think, what I would change. I would just like listen to those who need to live on this earth for the next maybe 100 years or 70 years or whatever it is. And I would just like stop thinking about profit and start thinking about sustainability.
The government should be focusing more money and resources into tackling climate change, both domestically and internationally, helping also poorer countries to work on their goals, and helping them to build up better infrastructure and better education and such, which would not only help tackling climate change, but also just making the world more just and better in the long run.